Dad bod usually isn't a genetics issue. It's a routine issue. It's what happens when daily movement drops, calories creep up, and strength training becomes rare or random, so the waist grows while muscle shape fades. In this video, you'll learn exactly what dad bod means in measurable terms, the real-life habits that create it, and a simple system to shrink your waist while keeping or building muscle, without crash dieting or living in the gym. Watch while you work out and learn while you train. Part 1. What dad bod really means. Dad bod is slang, but the body underneath it is measurable. It usually means the waist has grown faster than the rest of the body, while visible muscle cues have faded. The scale might barely move, yet the midsection looks softer. Posture often gets a little more forward, and everyday fitness drops. This can show up in someone who has never trained a day in their life, and it can also show up in someone who used to lift seriously. The key is not the label. It is the pattern. More abdominal fat, less muscle shape, and less capacity to move well and recover. In fitness terms, the most useful dad bod marker is the waist because it reflects how much fat is being stored around the abdomen. Weight alone can lie, especially if you gained some muscle or lost it over time. A person can be light and still carry a disproportionate amount of fat at the waist, and a person can be heavy with a relatively tight waist if they have more lean mass. When you're trying to improve your physique, you care about the ratio between muscle and fat, not just the number on the scale. Dad bod is basically a ratio problem that shows up visually. A common confusion is mixing up skinny fat, dad bod, and an intentional bulk. Skinny fat is usually low muscle with moderate fat, so the body looks soft even at a lower body weight, often with thin arms and shoulders, but a soft midsection. Dad bod often has a similar waist softness, but it may come with more total body mass and a more filled look in the torso, sometimes from years of eating like an adult while training less. An intentional bulk is different because it is planned. Strength is rising, lifts are progressing, protein is high, and the waist is monitored, so it does not run away. Here is the simplest body composition logic that actually helps. Your look is driven by how much lean mass you carry and where fat is stored on top of it. Lean mass is not only muscle, but muscle is the piece you can build on purpose, and it is what gives shape to the shoulders, chest, arms, glutes, and legs. Fat mass is stored energy, and it blurs those shapes. Two people can weigh the same, but the one with more lean mass will look tighter, move better, and usually handle more training volume. If your goal is to fix dad bod, you are aiming to lower fat and raise or maintain lean mass. That is why the waist trend beats scale obsession. A simple method is to track waist size consistently and compare it with your height over time. If your waist is shrinking while your strength is stable or improving, you are moving toward an athletic physique, even if the scale is slow. If the scale drops but your waist barely changes and your lifts collapse, you may be losing muscle and looking smaller without looking better. Advanced lifters already know this, but beginners can use it immediately. Waist trend plus performance tells the truth. So why does fat often collect around the waist? Part of it is genetics, but most of it is behavior and environment. When daily movement drops and food intake quietly rises, the body stores more energy. The abdomen is a common storage site, and some of that fat can sit deeper around organs, while some sits under the skin. The deeper kind tends to be more strongly linked with health risk, but both contribute to the dad bod look. You do not need hormone myths to explain it. A long-term energy surplus, frequent highly palatable foods, alcohol, and low activity are enough to create the pattern in most adults. There are two big pathways into dad bod, and the first one is the most common. You never trained, but you looked fine when you were younger. When you are young, daily movement can be higher without trying. Appetite can be more stable, and you can get away with random eating patterns. Then adult life hits. More sitting, more stress, more convenience food, less sleep, and suddenly your baseline calorie burn drops while intake drifts up. With no strength training to build muscle, your frame stays small and the extra energy has one place to show up, the waist. The second pathway is the former lifter or former athlete who becomes inconsistent. When training fades, muscle slowly downshifts because it is expensive tissue to maintain. The body adapts to the signal you give it, and sometimes I lift, sometimes I don't, is a weak signal. Add in a busy schedule and the same eating habits you had when you trained harder, and the ratio flips. The waist expands while shoulders, arms, and legs lose a bit of density. You can still look big, but the look becomes smoother and less athletic. The fix for this pathway is usually not extreme dieting. It is rebuilding a consistent training signal. What does dad bod feel like in real life, especially if you do no sports? It often shows up as low stamina on stairs, getting winded carrying groceries, and feeling tight in the hips and upper back after sitting. You might notice sleep feels less restorative, energy dips harder in the afternoon, and small tasks feel heavier. Those are not personality traits. They are conditioning and tissue capacity issues. For someone who lifts, the feeling can include slower recovery, joints that feel cranky, and workouts that stop progressing even when effort is high. In both cases, the body is telling you your current inputs are not supporting performance. Now separate aesthetics from health without turning it into shame. Many people want to look leaner because it matches their fitness goals, and that is valid. Health-wise, a growing waist is a meaningful signal because central fat is linked with higher cardiometabolic risk over time. If your waist is trending down, your daily movement is up, and you can train consistently, you are moving toward both better looks and better health. The goal is not to be ripped. The goal is to be capable, energetic, and in control of your physique. To make this practical, build a simple dashboard you can actually follow. Measure your waist once per week under the same conditions, and take photos from the front, side, and back every couple of weeks in consistent lighting. If the scale stresses you out, treat it as optional, but if you use it, track the weekly average rather than day-to-day spikes. Also, track a daily movement baseline, like steps, because it is one of the easiest levers for fat loss without feeling like punishment. For beginners, a target like 7,000 to 10,000 steps per day is a strong starting range. There is a dedicated video on the channel about progress measurement. Part 2. How dad bod happens. Dad bod doesn't arrive overnight. It is usually the result of a small calorie surplus that repeats so often it becomes your normal, plus a lifestyle that quietly lowers daily movement. Think about adult life math: long workdays, stress, commuting, sitting, meetings, then rushing food because you're hungry and time is short. Portions creep up, snacks fill the gaps, and liquids count more than you think. Add weekends with restaurant meals, treats, and alcohol, and you've built a tiny surplus that compounds over months and years. The body does exactly what it is designed to do: store the extra. The tricky part is that the surplus is often invisible. You don't feel like you're overeating because you're not binging. You're just stacking small extras. A coffee drink that is more dessert than caffeine, a handful of nuts while cooking, just a bite of your kid's food, a second plate because you barely ate earlier. When your day is packed, hunger hits hard at night, and dinner becomes the biggest meal by far. That pattern is common, and it drives waist gain because you are repeatedly giving your body more energy than you spend, without a consistent muscle-building signal to direct that energy. Now add the hidden activity leak, NEAT, which is the movement you do outside the gym. It includes steps, standing, walking while on the phone, carrying things, and all the little movements that burn a surprising amount of energy across a day. NEAT usually drops hard as life gets more sedentary. You might train 3 days per week and still lose the calorie battle if your daily steps collapse. It is completely possible to work out and still be an overall low movement person. When you go from a lifestyle with 10 to 15,000 steps to a lifestyle with 3 to 5,000 steps, that gap is huge, and a few workouts do not fully compensate. This is why the most common dad bod pathway starts with someone who never trained consistently. When you are younger, you often move more without trying. You walk more, stand more, fidget more, and you may eat less simply because your routine is different. Even if your nutrition is not great, your total intake might match your expenditure by accident. Then adult life reduces movement, increases convenience food, and adds stress and poor sleep. With no training background, you also have a smaller muscle base, meaning fewer calories are used to maintain muscle tissue, and your physique changes faster once waist gain starts. When you have never trained, the first visible change is usually posture and capacity. Sitting a lot tightens hips and upper back, and the body becomes less efficient at basic movement. You start to feel winded climbing stairs, you avoid physical tasks, and movement becomes something you minimize because it feels harder. That creates a feedback loop. Less movement makes you less fit. Being less fit makes movement feel worse, and the waist keeps climbing because energy expenditure keeps shrinking. The solution is not shame, and it is not extreme dieting. The solution is rebuilding a baseline of strength and daily movement, so your body has a reason to stay athletic. The second pathway is the former active person who stops training or becomes random. This is important because it can fool you. The scale might not spike, but the mirror changes anyway. Muscle is expensive tissue, and your body will not keep much of it without a regular stimulus. When training becomes inconsistent, muscle slowly shrinks, especially in areas you are not challenging. At the same time, if you keep eating like you still train hard, you are now running a surplus relative to your new activity level. The result is a physique shift, less muscle shape, more softness, and usually a bigger waist-to-shoulder ratio. Detraining is not magic, it is adaptation in reverse. If you were lifting 3 to 5 days per week and you drop to whenever I can, your weekly hard sets fall below what you need to maintain size and strength. You might still go to the gym and sweat, but without consistent tension and progression, your body has no reason to keep the muscle. This is where advanced lifters get trapped. They train just enough to feel like they did something, but not enough to keep performance climbing. The fix is to treat consistency like a non-negotiable input, even if the program becomes simpler during busy seasons. Progressive overload is the difference between training and exercise. For the person who does zero training, the problem is obvious. You never built the muscle in the first place. Strength training is not just for looking good. It makes your body more metabolically active and more capable. For the person who lifts, the mistake is thinking effort alone is enough. If your sets are always the same weights and the same reps, you are practicing movement, not forcing adaptation. A simple practical anchor is to build most sets around 6 to 12 reps. Keep 1 to 3 reps in reserve, and aim to add a rep or a small load increase over time. Across 3 to 5 sessions per week, that signal maintains muscle while you drop fat. Protein and meal structure are another major driver, and it starts with non-lifter reality. Breakfast is often low protein, lunch is rushed or skipped, and dinner becomes massive. That pattern makes hunger harder to control and makes it easier to overshoot calories at night. Protein helps because it supports muscle retention and tends to be more filling per calorie than ultra-processed snacks. You do not need perfection, you need anchors. If each meal has a clear protein source, it becomes easier to keep total intake under control. For muscle goals, a practical range for many people is roughly 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight spread across the day. Sleep debt makes everything worse, and you do not need complicated biology to understand why. When you sleep less, hunger rises, cravings shift toward quick, high-calorie foods, and your decision-making gets weaker when the day drags on. You also move less without noticing it. You choose the elevator, you sit more, you skip the walk, and you justify it because you feel tired. That means your energy expenditure drops while your intake gets harder to control, which is the exact recipe for waist gain. If you want a physique upgrade, treat sleep like training, protect it, plan it, and build a routine that gives you a consistent window most nights. Stress and time scarcity create decision fatigue, and this is where people think they lack discipline. What actually happens is that the environment is set up to win against you. When you're stressed, you default to the easiest high-reward option, which usually means hyper-palatable foods, delivery, and mindless snacking. The fix is not relying on motivation. The fix is reducing friction for good choices and increasing friction for bad ones. Keep easy proteins ready, like yogurt, lean meats, eggs, or protein shakes. Keep fruit visible. Don't store trigger foods in the most accessible places. This is behavior design, not willpower fantasy. Alcohol and social calories are a classic dad-bod accelerant because they hit both sides of the equation. Alcohol adds calories, but more importantly, it lowers food restraint and disrupts sleep. A couple of drinks can turn into a late-night meal you would never choose on a normal day. Even if you eat clean during the week, a social weekend can erase the deficit without you realizing it. This does not mean you must quit drinking forever. It means you need a strategy. If you want fat loss, keep drinking occasions less frequent, keep serving smaller, and avoid pairing alcohol with the highest calorie foods in the same night when possible. Cardio misunderstanding is another major cause, and it shows up as two extremes. The first is doing none at all, which is common, and it leaves you with low work capacity and fewer calories burned through movement. The second is trying to fix everything with aggressive cardio, which often backfires because it increases hunger and recovery stress, especially if you also lift. Cardio is a tool, not a punishment. For most people, Steady Zone 2 work 2 to 4 times per week for 20 to 40 minutes, supports health, improves stamina, and helps maintain a calorie deficit without crushing recovery. Pair it with steps and lifting, and it becomes powerful. Finally, the "my metabolism is broken" story needs a clean explanation. Metabolic adaptation is real, but it is often overstated. When you lose weight, your body tends to burn slightly fewer calories because you are smaller and because you may unconsciously move less. That is not a broken system, it is a normal response. Most plateaus come from intake creeping up, tracking getting sloppy, and activity drifting down. The solution is measurement and adjustment. Track waist trends, track steps, and keep training performance in view. When progress slows, you do not need a new supplement. You need a small change in calories, movement, or consistency applied for long enough to see the trend. Part 3. The simple system to lose it. First, define the win clearly because lose dad bod is a measurable outcome. Your primary target is a shrinking waist over time while your body stays strong and capable. If you want a simple rule, treat the waist as the scoreboard and strength as the proof you're doing it the smart way. The scale is secondary because it can move slowly, stall, or even rise while recomposition happens. Fit signals matter too. Daily steps, how easily you can walk uphill without gasping, and whether workouts feel stable. If you lift, pick a few key movements and aim to maintain them. You don't need a gym membership to lose a dad bod. The core driver is still the same. Spend a bit more energy than you eat and do some form of resistance work so your body keeps muscle while the waist shrinks. That resistance can be home workouts with adjustable dumbbells, a pull-up bar, bands, push-ups, split squats, and loaded carries. Pair that with a step goal you can actually hit. Think 7,000 to 10,000 steps most days, and a couple of Zone 2 sessions per week where you can talk but don't want to sing, and you'll see the waist move. But if your goal is specifically to look athletic, the gym is simply the most efficient tool. Machines and free weights let you progressively overload with small, repeatable jumps, which is how muscle is built and preserved best. You can target muscles that create the V shape, back, shoulders, chest, while keeping legs and glutes strong, and you can do it in 3 to 5 sessions per week with most sets in the 6 to 12 rep range, stopping 1 to 3 reps shy of failure. That combination, progressive strength work plus a controlled deficit, is the fastest path to a tighter waist and a better physique. Fast loss feels exciting, but it often trades muscle, training quality, and adherence for speed. A sustainable pace for many people is roughly 0.5% to 1% of body weight per week, depending on starting point and training age. If you are lean already, go slower. If you are carrying more fat, you can go faster early. The moment your workouts fall apart, sleep is wrecked, and hunger becomes constant, you are moving too fast. The goal is not to suffer. The goal is to execute consistently long enough to change your body. Nutrition is the main lever for waist reduction, and you need a framework that fits real life. Start with a modest calorie deficit, not a crash diet. Macros are simply protein, carbs, and fats, and they matter because they affect hunger, training performance, and muscle retention. Protein is the priority because it supports muscle and keeps you fuller. For most people, a useful target is about 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Keep fats at a healthy minimum, then use carbs to support training and daily energy. This is flexible dieting, not perfection eating. You have two ways to apply that without becoming obsessive. If you like structure, track calories and protein daily for a few weeks to learn portions, then loosen the grip once you can eyeball reliably. If tracking stresses you out, use a portion template built around protein anchors. Aim for a protein source at every meal, and build the rest of the plate around high-fiber carbs and plants so you can eat more volume for fewer calories. The common mistake is trying to eat clean while accidentally eating too much. Your body responds to totals, not labels. Use a simple meal build that you can repeat anywhere. Start with a protein anchor like chicken, lean beef, eggs, fish, Greek yogurt, tofu, or a protein shake. Add a high-fiber carb like potatoes, rice, oats, beans, or whole grains, and include a big serving of vegetables or fruit for volume and micronutrients. Add smart fats in controlled amounts because fats are calorie-dense and easy to overshoot. When this becomes your default, fat loss stops being a battle of willpower. It becomes a repeatable system that makes hunger manageable and training possible. Make this real with swaps that actually happen in life. If your office lunch is a pastry and coffee, change it to a yogurt bowl with fruit, plus a sandwich with a lean protein, or a rice bowl with chicken and vegetables, and suddenly your afternoon cravings drop. If you eat out, keep the same structure. Prioritize a protein-heavy main, choose a carb portion you can live with, and add vegetables, while keeping sauces and fried add-ons under control. If late-night snacking kills you, plan a high-protein dessert like yogurt with berries, or a shake instead of wandering into chips and sweets while tired. Strength training is the physique lever because it is the signal that tells your body to keep or build muscle while you diet. The mistake is treating lifting as optional and cardio as the main tool. Cardio helps, but lifting shapes the body. You want a program with enough intensity to stimulate muscle and enough volume to grow or maintain it, without frying recovery. Intensity means how close you are to failure, and volume means how many challenging sets you do. A simple rule is to keep most working sets within 1 to 3 reps in reserve, meaning you stop with a small buffer, not with sloppy failure reps every time. Beginners should not overcomplicate this. Full body training 3 days per week works extremely well because you practice the main movement patterns frequently and improve fast. Pick a squat pattern, a hinge pattern, a press, a row, and an accessory or two. Aim for 2 to 4 hard sets per exercise, mostly in the range of 6 to 12 reps, and try to add a rep or a little weight over time. Starting light is not a weakness, it is how you learn technique and build a progression runway. If you do this consistently for 3 months, the dad bod pattern starts breaking quickly. Advanced lifters need structure that respects recovery and keeps progression alive. Upper and lower splits, or push-pull legs, can work well if you can train 3 to 5 days per week. The rule stays the same. You need enough hard sets per muscle per week to maintain or build, and you need a progression plan. If you are cutting, you may reduce volume slightly, but you must keep intensity. That means you still lift heavy enough to challenge the muscles, even if you do fewer total sets. Keep performance on big lifts stable, and the physique stays dense while the waist shrinks. Steps in cardio are the easiest multiplier because they increase energy expenditure without requiring starvation. Steps are especially powerful because they are low fatigue and easy to scale. For many people, a good baseline is 7 to 10,000 steps per day, and if fat loss stalls, increasing steps is often the cleanest adjustment. Add zone 2 cardio 2 to 4 times per week for 20 to 40 minutes, using the talk test where you can speak in sentences but would not want to sing. If you are advanced and recovery is solid, add short interval work once per week, but do not let it sabotage lifting quality. Your weekly check-in keeps you objective. Look at waist trend across 2 to 3 weeks, not day-to-day noise. If the waist is not moving, either calories are higher than you think or activity is lower than you think, and the solution is a small adjustment, not a reset. Reduce intake by roughly 5 to 10% or add a couple thousand daily steps, then hold steady and reassess. If strength and energy crash, you are cutting too aggressively or recovery is failing. Bring the deficit down, take a deload week with fewer sets, and fix sleep. Your goal is steady progress, not heroic suffering. Recovery is not a luxury, it is part of the system. Sleep is the most powerful recovery tool because it supports appetite control, training performance, and daily movement. Aim for 7 to 9 hours when possible, and at least protect a consistent schedule. Caffeine is useful, but treat it like a tool. Keep it earlier in the day so it does not steal sleep, and avoid stacking it to compensate for chronic fatigue. Hydration matters because dehydration reduces performance and can increase perceived hunger. Plan training times that fit your real schedule because the best program is the one you can repeat. Consistency is built by design, not motivation. Create default meals you can repeat on autopilot and build a grocery routine that supports them. Keep quick proteins available so you are never forced into random snacks. If travel or restaurants are common, decide your go-to orders ahead of time and focus on protein first. Alcohol boundaries are part of many people's success. Fewer drinking days, smaller servings, and avoiding the late-night food spiral. You are not trying to live like a monk. You are trying to build a lifestyle that makes the athletic choice the easiest choice. Finally, maintenance is the real finish line because losing the waist is easy compared to keeping it off. Transition out of the deficit slowly, bringing calories up toward maintenance while keeping protein and training consistent. Keep progressive overload alive, even if it is slower, because muscle is your long-term insurance policy. Use guardrails, a step floor you rarely drop under, a weekly waist check, and a protein minimum you hit most days. If your waist trends up for a couple of weeks, you tighten the system early, not after months. Master that, and dad bod stops being something you fight. It becomes something you simply do not return to. Here's the takeaway you can apply starting today. Treat your waist as the scoreboard and your strength as the proof. If you want the dad bod gone, run the system consistently, not perfectly. Set a small calorie deficit, hit a high protein target every day, and lift 3 to 5 times per week with most sets in the 6 to 12 rep range while keeping 1 to 3 reps in reserve. Keep daily steps high, aim for a solid baseline like 7 to 10,000, and add zone 2 cardio a few times per week so you're fitter, not just lighter. Then do a weekly check-in. If your waist isn't trending down after a couple of weeks, add steps or trim calories slightly. If your training crashes, back off the deficit and fix sleep. Do that for long enough, and you won't just lose weight, you'll rebuild the athletic body that stays.